Your Excellencies, the founder of the International Institute of Knowledge Management, the President and Deputies of the academic governing body of the International Institute of Knowledge Management, all the resource persons and distinguished guests of the 8th International Conference on Education 2022. Lastly, special appreciation and gratitude to the organizing committee who have been working tirelessly to make the 8th International Conference be a success, despite the global pandemic of COVID-19 and the ongoing geopolitical crisis that is happening in Europe, particularly in Ukraine. And also a particular appreciation for the inviting me to speak and share some thoughts about how Timor-Leste's experiences in ensuring education service during time of uncertainties. It is such a privilege for me to be here today speaking that about very important topic, education in times of uncertainty, preparing for the future, especially to share some of the key success that Timor-Leste has made in education since the start of the global pandemic, our experience over the last 2 years, and how to prepare for a better future that undoubtedly will probably face even greater challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, just to give you some perspective about Timor-Leste, we are a small island nation located in Southeast Asia, between Indonesia and north of Darwin, Australia, a population of 1.3 million, of which about 30% is school children age group. A post-conflict nation that has been trying to prioritize the human development as one of our priorities, as it is reflected in our Strategic Development Plan 2030, a plan that is already aligned with the goal of SDG. It is noted that the government of Timor-Leste is yet to achieve the goal set out in the National Education Strategic Plan, which is to ensure all Timor-Leste children have access to quality education. Despite 95% of children 6 years old and above having completed quality basic education, repetition and dropout rates remain high. For instance, the repetition rate in early grade is noticeably higher at 18.9% for grade 1 in 2019. On the other hand, whilst recognizing the resource limitation, numerous competing priorities and challenges, Timor-Leste continues to make progress in the development of human capital. The Human Development Index is now ranked 141, improvement from ranking 134 in 2015. Timor-Leste has at least achieved 98% of primary education enrollment and achieved gender parity in primary education enrollment. We have also introduced important legislations, policies, and programs that aim to improve quality of learning, such as student-centered approach curriculum for basic education, play-based learning curriculum for preschool, inclusive education policies, continue to improve teachers' capacity through continuous professional development using mentoring approach and training. Effort to modernize education management system and introduction of flexible distance learning platforms using appropriate and affordable technologies to ensure continuous access to learning, and there are more efforts that the government of Timor-Leste has been doing to improve quality of education learning and teaching. Ladies and gentlemen, Although very few countries have escaped the severe consequences of COVID-19 pandemic, the pandemic has affected our education system significantly and the same magnitude. Almost every country has experienced schools closure. 1.6 billion learners across the globe have experienced school closure for a certain period of time, which is according to UNICEF report on the state of education 2021, state that both full and partial closures lasted an average of 224 days globally. Further exacerbated inequality in education. Even before the pandemic, at least around 56% of children around the globe had already experienced learning poverty. A significant inequality existed globally. The pandemic further affected such globally inequality in education. Despite some positive lessons and innovation that have been done, there have been significant degrees of learning and socio-emotional losses experienced by the students due to school closures, implicating some good achievements that have already been made through SDG intervention and will require enormous financial resource investment to close the gap. Similarly, Timor-Leste could not escape such severe consequences of COVID pandemic. In early 2020, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Sport decided to close all schools. In 2021, partial school closure across some municipalities. A report on socio-economic impact assessment of COVID-19 in Timor-Leste 2021 state that the pandemic has exacerbated the underlying issues, including limited access to educational services being made available. Over a third of students stopped studying or studied regularly due to the scarcity of printed learning materials. The preliminary finding of the Learning Loss Assessment commissioned by UNICEF as part of the GPE Accelerated Fund to address education during COVID-19 pandemic shows that there were some degrees of learning and socio-emotional losses experienced by students as the result of the continued schools closure due to COVID-19. This study is yet to be finalized. However, early indication suggests that the third cycle of basic education has demonstrated through numerous tests which indicates that scores on the numeracy test of the third cycle of basic education, grade 7, 8 and 9, on average declined by 5.4% between those schools that were tested in 2019 and 2021. This demonstrates learning loss as the result of school closure due to COVID-19 pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, despite challenges and setbacks due to the global pandemic, the government of Timor-Leste, particularly the Minister of Education, Youth and Sport, made quick decisions to address issues around school closures and ensuring continued learning for school-aged children while staying at home. And some positive lessons have been learned over the last 2 years. Some essential policies and strategies were deployed despite no prior experiences in the country. Firstly, some innovative initiatives such as flexible distance learning platforms were introduced to address the school closure and tried to ensure that opportunities were made available for all children and teachers to remain accessing learning opportunities. In 2020, supported by UNICEF, Timor-Leste introduced Learning Passport platform to help students and teachers access to learning resources online, where all the soft copies of curriculum content and learning materials, including textbooks, teacher training materials, and others, are uploaded and free of access. In addition, Sekolah Bauma, or School Goes Home program, a multi-channel distance learning program, was developed aiming to provide learning opportunities for children to continue learning while staying home during school closure. Sekolah Bauma is a program designed for preschool and basic education, Cycle 1 and Cycle 2, that students can access the curriculum learning contents through multiple channels including TV, radio, and social media platforms including Facebook and YouTube channels. All of these were done with good collaboration between the Minister of Education, Youth and Sport, development partners, as well as private telecommunication companies and public and private national television channels. Complementary to the use of technology, textbooks were also distributed to school children, allowing them to learn on their own at home, particularly those children in the remote areas which had difficulties accessing learning contents through Sekolah Bauma program. Secondly, the Minister of Education, Youth and Sport has developed a policy strategy that outlines the roadmap and steps for improving education management and learning using the MoEYS system and other platforms. We know that innovation is always challenging, yet challenges should not always be seen as an obstacle, but it is rather important to transform the challenges into opportunities. Though the flexible distance learning and the use of technology was never been thought of as something that would be possible in the context of Timor-Leste, but the sudden switch of teaching and learning pedagogy using the technology due to school closures has awakened us to be more strategic and innovative in setting our policy direction to modernize our education system. Efforts are made and we are slowly modernizing our education management system to further improve and ensure efficiency and efficacy of provision of educational service. Furthermore, support provided to teachers, particularly on the professional development and training through blended learning approach, using of tablets for training and reporting by teachers, and so on. Some teachers experienced difficulties of using tablets as they didn't know the basic skill of how to use tablets, and internet service was relatively expensive in Timor-Leste. In 4DP, the teacher training institution has been supported by various development partners to ensure that teachers remain supported through professional development and training activities. Lastly, And further to innovative programs we have introduced, Timor-Leste has always been trying to base its policies on informed decisions. Research is certainly one of the key elements, providing required information of facts and realities of certain contexts. To ensure that informed policy decisions are made, whilst there is an entity established to oversee research that will be used to inform policy decisions. The Minister of Education, Youth and Sport work with partners to produce evidence to ensure that policy decisions are made based on evidence. Numerous studies were commissioned to produce evidence, including Commission of Rapid Assessment on the compliance of face-to-face class during pandemic, learning loss assessment, study on Sekolah Bauma, early childhood education assessment, inclusive education assessment, mother tongue-based multilingual education assessment. These are some of those many initiatives that we have been trying to do to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic and its impacts on education. Though we recognize that many more could have been done better to support children's learning at home during school closure, only if we had enough resources. We couldn't hire extra teachers to fill the gap after introducing policy of doing shifts by the school as preventive measures for stopping the spreading of COVID-19 in the communities, including in schools. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to learn from our experiences and situations today, able to pinpoint new direction, and be able to respond to the future challenges and uncertainties. Similar pandemic could again occur. The climate change is imminent and may likely to pose potential threats of natural disasters of high magnitude, whether it could be flood, landslides, and or any man-made disaster may be inevitable. So it is important that we're learning from each other, sharing experiences and work together to face the future that may be full challenges and uncertainties towards a better and more resilient world. I would like to emphasize a few key points that I think are important for embracing the future challenges and uncertainties which may even be greater. Education policy makers could take this into consideration in ensuring provision of educational services in the future. 1. It is paramount that we make learning possible for everyone regardless of differences. The SDG 4 emphasizes the importance of leaving no one behind. All parties work together for a common goal. This means the state needs to set education as the key priorities that all stakeholders should prioritize and make a commitment to working towards achieving the common goal by putting adequate resources for the improvement of human development. It is also important that the government should ensure policies that allow the educational service to reach out to those children that are potentially left behind, those who are more vulnerable, to ensure that they can reach their full potential as well. This may require extra resources for the provision of educational services. Second, community and family participation is a valuable local asset, and being the agent of change helps transforming education to face future uncertainties. Participation of community, families and parents is essential for supporting children's learning at home. Timor-Leste has demonstrated a positive approach promoting parental participation in children's learning at home. To be agent of change, parents and teacher associations were encouraged to work collaboratively with parents to promote the importance of supporting children learning at home. Ensuring more active families and school engagement, working together to educate children, including providing a safe learning environment at home. It is acknowledged that parental and community participation in ensuring children's learning at home and sudden switch of learning pedagogy remain challenging for teachers, students and parents in many communities, particularly families and communities with low level of literacy, economic income, and reside in rural communities. Hence, mobilization of right resources is required to ensure equitable support for children, which in 2021. The Minister of Education, Youth and Sport, through the National Directorate for Basic Education and Preschool Education, has implemented parenting education training for members of Parenting Teachers Association across the country. It is an ongoing effort, but the initial indication show that parents have been very positive about the intervention. The third, education for peace. Education for peace is a process of acquiring knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes to live with others in peace. As we know, conflict is one of the global challenges we are facing now and in the future. It is important for us to insert knowledge, behaviors, and skills in the national curriculum for children to learn and promote peace as part of education for peace. We must reinforce the common global values of promoting respect, positive behavior, working together to achieve peace, and help create a better world that belongs to all through education for peace. Fourth, use of technological platforms is an essential tool for learning. As many experience from other countries, many studies acknowledge the many success using technology despite numerous standard challenges around the issue of equity. Using technology in education remains to be explored, and especially using hybrid approach in delivering teaching and learning, training teachers across level of education. Timor-Leste has learned a lot about using technology in education, though challenges remain. Sekolah Bauma, including use of learning passport, monitoring of school, teacher training by Infordepe, a training institution of teachers. Despite persistent challenges, including poor access to good quality internet, through the BEST project, the Minister is moving towards modernizing education management, especially MoEYS, developing an ICT policy, and ensuring the implementation is aligned with minister priority. Fifth, agent for change. School and teacher must act beyond teaching We have to ensure that they master skills that can transfer knowledge for change in schools, in particular change in children. Be innovative, bringing new ideas, and able to implement new systems for moving forward. Likewise to parents and community. They have the power of the context. They are the first model that children can model it for change not only at home but also in their community. They are also the key entity that motivates and inspires others for change. Overall, it is important to ensure that education policies consider to ensure that learning is possible for everyone. Through active participation of educational stakeholders, particularly community, families and parents in supporting children's learning at home, and at the same time utilize essential tools such as technology and teacher need to continue learning. These are some aspects that I think will remain important and contextualized in the future, where there will be even greater challenges and uncertainties. For further communication, to ensure good collaboration and partnership, you may reach out to me through email antonioguterres85@gmail.com. Thank you very much and all the best.